We're beginning the season of Advent, which in the Christian calendar counts down the time until the birth of the Christ child. But it's also a handy way for us to deal with the concept of waiting, which is something in these days of instant gratification we're not too good at practicing. Darkness is also increasing with shorter days and longer nights. And most of us don't want to stay for any amount of time in the dark. Children go through the stage of needing a nightlight on, and some of us have never really outgrown that stage and still have to sleep with a light on. But when we find ourselves in the darkness, spiritually or emotionally speaking, how can we possibly cope? Well, I want to share what the writer Marilyn Chandler McIntyre tells us to do in the darkness. Go slowly. Consent to it, but don't wallow in it. Know it as a place of germination and growth. Remember the light. Take an outstretched hand if you find one. Exercise unused senses. Find the path by walking it. Practice trust and watch for dawn. Let's unpack her advice, and maybe we'll find it helpful to consider the intentionality she suggests of making the most of the dark space we may be visiting. Maybe it's a bad mood that just lasts a few minutes. Maybe it's a loss of health that comes to us in slow decline. Maybe grief that might take years to overcome. So the first thing she says is go slowly. Well, that's only common sense. How many times have you gotten up in the middle of the night and stubbed your toe or stepped on the cat? We must be mindful of dealing with the dark. Consent to it, but don't wallow in it. You can give darkness of any kind, loss, grief, or despair, permission to exist, but refuse to allow yourself to be overcome by it. Know it as a place of germination and growth. Well, that's an analogy for the time that a seed takes to sprout and come to life as a seedling, a place where creativity is taking hold and new ideas, new possibilities are taking shape. Down in the dark loam, pushing up to the surface, it's a necessary journey for new life. And as we've heard it said, the brightest days make the darkest shadows. There's a balance between light and dark that we should respect. Remember the light. Well, even when engulfed by the dark, you can retain and entertain your memory of how it is in the light. Take an outstretched hand if you need one. Don't try to go through a dark time alone if someone else is there to offer help and support. Exercise unused senses. Well, you may find at a time when you're at a low ebb that you have other ways of coping, other strengths that come to the fore. When vision is hindered or lost, then touch or smell or hearing are senses that are somehow enhanced. Find the path by walking it. The poet David Whyte says exactly this: by walking, you make the path. In his poem, Santiago, about the way of the pilgrim in Spain, he writes about the sense of having walked from far inside yourself out into the revelation, to have risked yourself for something that seemed to stand both inside you and far beyond you, that called you back in the end to the only road you could follow. Practice trust. Trust in yourself first and foremost, that you can find a way out of the darkness. And finally, watch for dawn, the unleashing of the light, the new horizon, the slow and sure spread of illumination that comes in the end to shine onto your life and bring you peace. Darkness can indeed take hold of us. That universal experience is the reason why, down and across the ages, the major faith traditions have metaphorically dealt with darkness and light to give us hope that in this time of shortening days and lengthening nights, that we may have confidence that the light will return to our lives, and that the still, small voice of love eternal cannot be silenced.